Welcome back to Seriously, What Could They Be Thinking? The show where finance meets leadership, and where Cindy and I try to figure out whether AI is the next industrial revolution or just the next fidget spinner.
And as always, we promise to explain the hype without requiring you to prompt engineer your way through the episode. Jamie, this one, we always say that this is our favorite, but AI is hype everywhere. Last time I think we talked, we were talking about AI washing, a new term. So let's talk a little bit about what's happening in the market right now with this whole AI thing. I don't know if it's a bubble,
It's a scary time in the market, right? As an investor, oh my goodness, I feel so good because I have missed out on most of this AI revolution. I'll be honest. I am not an investor in NVIDIA. I do not really care for the Magnificent Seven. So the fact that they're kind of getting a little bit of their air taken out is really satisfying, but at the same time, a bit scary about what's going to happen in the future. Because look, AI is everywhere. The global AI market is expected to reach $1.35 trillion by 2030. Now, that depends on how you estimate that, but it's crazy.
That is insane.
Who's leading this? Yeah, who's leading this? NVIDIA, right? This huge company that nobody heard of 5 years ago, that is now the largest company in the world, that really is the mover of the Magnificent Seven, and is a huge section of the S&P 500 all on its own, right? So
yeah.
if we look at everything that's going on, there's a reason why that's true. AI corporate spending is up 20 to 30, 40%, depending on who you're looking at. And over 75 or 70% of companies say AI is a priority. However, only 20% of them have deployed it in any sort of meaningful way, according to statistics. And there haven't been productivity gains associated with that huge increase in spending.
Right. And I think we can basically say that, 20% saying that they are trying or meaningfully deploying it, or trying to meaningfully deploy it. What does that actually mean? Like, is it they just have an AI tool somewhere in the building, or it could be anything. But this really feels to me, Jamie, like what we saw with the internet revolution and digital transformation. We saw so much opportunity, and it just took companies a really, really long time to get there. It was surprisingly slow. So what do you think is happening with AI now?
AI is actually really interesting. NVIDIA came out with their earnings and they announced that they were going to have $500 billion of revenue, probably between 2025 and 2026. I mean, huge numbers. The stock immediately popped by 5%. The market had come up. We were in this kind of downward little cycle going on up until that comment. And then NVIDIA pops and the market turns around, right? But by the end of the day, NVIDIA has given up all of its gains and its shares are down, and we're back to fear of an AI bubble. And there's actually some legitimate reasons behind that. While NVIDIA is making a ton of money on their data centers and items like that, and they're actually trading at a PE that is not out of this world, at 43 times earnings. Now that's high, but it's not crazy high. With what's happening. The problem is that AI adoption is just not as strong as people are expecting. In fact, The Economist came out 4 days ago, really great article, encourage everybody to read it, to talk about what AI adoption actually looks like. And let's go through the numbers a little quickly.
Yeah,
right? They relied on US Census Bureau data and BLS data, and they basically said, hey, it turns out that over the last 2 months, we've actually seen a drop in AI adoption rates. The people who are using it as firms using it as a percentage of goods produced and services produced has actually dropped from a little over 12% to now 11%, right? Which means a 1 percentage point drop. That's there. But the problem is that if you were trying to fuel this economy, you need rapid acceleration, right? You need that J curve happening. You don't want even a hesitation at the top of what is going on with that. And they're backed up by other individuals. So Federal Reserve of St. Louis has a tracker out there, and they're saying 12.1% of working age adults use AI every day at work. Just 12.1. Worst part, 12.6% did a year later, right? So
Right.
that's just a
It didn't
half
move.
a
It didn't
percentage
move
point
in a
growth.
year.
It,
Yeah.
it barely moved, right? Ramp, a tech firm, actually said that American firms soared in early 2025 and to 40% of firms using it, but now it is completely leveled off. And
Right.
that has gotten a lot of people worried about what's happening, about what's going on, because they need that J curve.
I will say that the market being where it's at, I worry, and I don't know much about the interaction of the top performers versus the rest of the market because it tells. I assume that when you've got 5 or 7 companies that are pulling the market along, or at least the S&P 500, that when they tank, the rest will too. I mean, so I assume that the rest are inflated as well, being sort of dragged along. Is that the way it kind of works, or are they accurately priced, the lower ones, or the yeah?
Actually depends on who you're talking about. I would say that there are some that are actually being ignored that actually are doing better than is expected, and that's where the right playing field is for people like me, and I am
Yes.
looking actively at those. But you're right, most of them are kind of rising all tides. If we go back to the
Mm,
most recent bubble, because we're worried about it being a bubble, right? We can go
right.
back to the dot-com bubble with what's happening. Actually, there's a really interesting parallel I just thought about that I'm going to have to tell you about too. Okay, but dot-com bubble.
Yeah.
Let's talk about what happened back in the dot-com bubble. Everything became a dot-com
Right.
company, right? Pepsi was a dot-com company. I'm like, what the heck is that, right? Coca-Cola. Now, UPS, I kind of get because we were all
Right.
buying stuff associated with it, right? But what actually broke the back of the dot-com bubble? Does anybody, do you remember?
I don't remember.
It's
I don't.
Napster. It's Napster. There was a
Oh.
Napster moment back then, right? And what happened was Napster got declared as basically being illegal. It wasn't that
Right.
they were doing something illegal, they were aiding and abetting illegal activity, and they ended up having to shut down. Instantly, overnight, I'm not joking, overnight, the amount of AI, or not AI, wow, internet usage tanked, right? Like it had been growing at triple digits year after
Interesting.
year after year, and then Napster got hit, and all of a sudden it flattened and started going down just a little bit, which is
Thanks.
exactly what we're seeing right here, right now,
Right.
right? Now let's go
Right.
to the next bubble, which is 2008
The
crisis,
housing
right?
bubble.
Now,
Right.
what broke the housing bubble back? Well, it turns out it was the prices of housing went up for years, fueling that growth. And what
Hmm.
actually broke the camel's back was not that it went down, but rather that housing prices flattened, which is
Uh,
what's going on. What has been breaking these bubbles isn't a drop, it is just a
Interesting. A
slowing of
flattening.
that J curve, that flattening out of the J curve.
Yeah.
And we're seeing that right now in AI. Now, do I know if this is going to be the same thing? No, but it is a really interesting parallel that I have not been
Very.
hearing on CNBC yet.
It is very interesting. Okay, so the question, well, a question for another day is why do we think that these productivity or these gains are going to increase infinitely? I have no idea, but I do think we really want the positive news, right? We all are looking for positive news in our life, but at some point the reality has to set in. So if it is flattening now, and we see that happening, I think it's interesting to look at why it could be flattening now. So I'm one of the same people. I thought we would have autonomous trucks, self-driving semis on the highways by now. I swore we were going to have it by now. It's probably another 10 years away. And I thought it was going to be today, 10 years ago. So I always overestimate how quickly people will adopt technology. So, but we are seeing people adopt technology quicker today, right? So it's
Absolutely.
the telephone took decades to get to homes, but that's because there was no infrastructure. They had to build the infrastructure. And then the internet came and it was faster because it rode on the infrastructure. I mean, it didn't require you to dig up the dirt or to build the telephone lines and that kind of stuff. So eventually they did that. They laid fiber and that kind of thing. But most of the infrastructure is there. So what have you seen in the data around the adoption, like how quickly we're
Much
adopting
faster.
technologies? Yeah.
Yeah, we're very willing to adopt new technologies, right? So if you go ahead and look back at history, right? Netflix took 10 years to get
Mhm.
to 100 million users. Facebook, 4.5 years. Instagram, 2.5 years. TikTok, 9 months. ChatGPT, 2 months. 2 months for 100 million users. When this thing opened, it really did look like a revolution coming. I mean, it was just
Yes.
whoosh.
Right.
Everybody's using this. Everybody was crazy over it. And so and we did not have a ton of infrastructure. So let's
Right.
actually, I'm going to take a quick second here. We need to define a few things. When we're talking
Yeah.
AI growth, et cetera, there's several, I'm going to call them 3 different buckets that would be very helpful for people to understand. There's the
Okay.
NVIDIA players, the ASMLs type of companies. These are the infrastructure providing companies. Okay. And they
Okay.
are the ones that are leading the market right now. And they are making some bank right now. They really are. I mean, NVIDIA is very profitable with what is going on. Then there are the potential service providers that are dealing with this. These are the Metas, the Facebooks, the NVIDIAs, the Chat GPTs that are out there.
Microsoft,
They're
Google. Yep.
spending all of that money that NVIDIA is making in order to deal with it. But they are the developers.
Right.
Then there are the potential users, right? That's you and me and our companies and
Yeah.
most companies that are not in the tech space.
Right.
Ultimately, they're the people who have to pay for it all, right? Because
Well,
the infrastructure is being built so that the providers can use the provisions so that they can make money off of the users.
yes. Well, okay. With one exception. Well, not an exception, but let's go look at that list of technologies, and I'll find a way to put it on the screen here. But if you look at the technologies that we've talked about, Spotify, Netflix, Airbnb, Twitter, Facebook, like TikTok, those are all consumer technologies. Those are consumer technologies. Those are not business to business. Those are business to consumer. And so ChatGPT, when they saw that huge uptake, I don't think that was businesses. I think that was individuals maybe using it in their work. That was people like you and me. They're like,
There's
hey,
people
I
like
wonder
you.
if
It's my students, right? It's my students. I actually
exactly.
met with a bunch of students the other day and we talked about AI ethics. And my university provides the students with an LLM. It's got
Mm,
ring fence, there's reasons for it, safety. Most of them don't use it. However,
mm.
80% of the students in that room had a Chat GPT subscription.
See, that was what I was going to ask you. How many of them are paying for it? And so
They are. They're
that
paying
might
for it.
be that. Okay, so
Even
that
though we
might be the
provide it for them
saving
for free.
grace. Oh, yeah. Well, but they pay for them. But do you provide them the subscription version?
Yes, yeah, we provide them a paid subscription version, and they still go out and use their own and pay 20
Interesting.
bucks for it. So
Interesting.
that's why Chegg went down, but we'll talk about that other issue
Okay,
in a
so we'll
different
have
time.
to dig into that one in a late future episode. But that gives me a little bit of hope that we may not see the dip, at least not in across the board. Because if we are paying for it ourselves,
Yes.
it gives us some idea that the market will that people will pay for it outside of their work already. But what does that mean for Microsoft, for Meta, right? What does it mean for those companies that are banking on selling large quantities or large dollars to businesses? Because the type of money that we're talking about here, I don't think that can be supported by individuals alone.
I don't think it can either. I mean, think about $120 a year, right? Was that how much it
Mm,
cost? $240 a year, $20 a month,
20 a
$240 a
month.
year,
Yeah.
right? They had 100 million users. I think they're way past that now, right? But
Yeah.
100 million users is a huge number. Um, and so that's $2 billion. $2 billion? 2 billion? $2
It's
billion
not
dollars a year?
enough. So,
It's not enough. It's nowhere
yeah.
close. All right, so actually let's talk about that. Let's
Yeah.
uh right now we're talking about $5 trillion of infrastructure being built into AI. That's the estimate. By 2030, from today to 2030, $5 trillion. Okay. According to JP Morgan, in order to make that money worthwhile, that $5 trillion that the service providers, the Microsofts and stuff like that are spending on NVIDIA's, they would need to make about $650 billion a year in AI revenues to make that justifiable. Okay. Right now, today, it's 50 billion. It's 50 billion, including the fact that all my students already have a subscription.
Well,
Uh,
yeah, yeah, exactly. So I think if we look at that, the question I have is, are companies, because individuals alone are not going to be enough, companies have to make the shift too. So are companies looking to use AI in their own products, Are they looking to generate more revenue with AI, or are they looking to get productivity gains? And I think,
Productivity gains, right? Yeah.
yeah, I totally agree. I totally agree. It's productivity gains. So we did a little math exercise before this where we looked at what it would take for companies to buy enough technology to get the productivity gains that are required to support where the market is today. And you did the math. How did the math turn out?
Okay, so yeah, let's talk about that. So we took 2,040 hours of work a year, right? 133 million full-time employees in the United States-ish. And the average cost, according to BLS, $48 an hour. So if we multiply all that out, that means 13 trillion-esque spent on employees in the United States every year.
Yes.
If we were to get productivity gains of about $650 million, that is a billion.
Yeah.
We have to increase productivity by 5%, reduce our work staff by 5% with the same production in order to justify the $650 billion a year.
Yeah.
Now, that's a problem because that would just mean that those companies break even. Right? I spend it on infrastructure rather than on physical employees, which is not really a great story that's there. You need cost savings, which means you really need to double that. So we're talking about probably productivity gains in the area of 10% for every
single company.
To justify the $650 billion.
Yeah. Yeah. And when we look at Walmart, largest, I don't know, I keep thinking they're the largest company, but employer. Thank you. I was like, NVIDIA is the largest from a market cap, but so largest employer is Walmart. Their entire model is based on productivity. Can Walmart get 10% productivity gains out of AI in rapid turnaround? I'm not seeing it.
I really don't see. I mean, a lot of their efforts that you would think of where they could gain that haven't worked. Everything from RFID types where you're every time you put it into a shopping cart, then it automatically charges you. It could happen. I guess Walmart could go the way of. Have you been to an airport recently where you swipe your card in and then you walk out and there's basically little RFID tags on everything that's with you so that you can walk out. The problem is can you do that in volume? There's only like 10 people in those stores at one time.
Right.
Can they do that
I've never
in mass,
used that.
especially if they have a cart this big?
Right. And I've never actually used that just because, and I'm an early adopter of most technologies, but I was like, how do I verify when I leave that they charge me the right amount? That's like,
you can get a receipt.
I think, okay. Well, okay. That's helpful. But okay. Anyway, enough about me. So I think the question that you and I are also struggling with is we want to see this succeed. We want our market to continue to do well. It's not that we're looking for mass extinction of jobs, but we don't want to see the economy tank. So I think the question is, how realistic is it that companies will get this productivity gain, all these productivity gains out of artificial intelligence when I don't know, we haven't seen that type of productivity gain overnight previously. We didn't see it in the .com era.
I mean, classic pattern, right? Over investment early, slow actual adoption. And, it does eventually change the world, but it takes a lot more time than what people are thinking, right? So, innovation hype often outruns the human capacity and the organizational behavior.
Right. So when we look at organizational behavior, we expect organizations to adopt technologies overnight, or at least that's the way the market is positioning it. But I think that I believe that leaders play a large role in it, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But I think number one, we have legacy data systems. There are some organizations that are still working on technology from the 90s or the early 2000s, right? So how do you put AI on top of that? And how do you redesign all your processes and procedures to allow for for innovation to take hold? And I would imagine that there's some CFOs out there that are looking at this going, I'm not so sure this is what all it was meant to be. The hype is real. So I imagine there's some CFOs pushing back. Are you seeing that?
Absolutely. I would absolutely agree with that. I think that we are seeing people, I mean, we've got the AI washing that we talked about last time,
Hmm.
which is people are going ahead and laying off some certain people and they're blaming it on AI, but I think that's really just a story
Right,
that's coming out. And we are just kind of seeing a little bit of that bubble deflate
right,
with what's going on. Yet organizations, they still have that hype for the future, but
right.
productivity lags technological investments by 5 to 10 years historically. It took 7 years after the IT revolution for productivity to measurably rise in GDP stats.
Right. Yeah. And I think I believe that this is a human problem. So we talked about the transition from telephones to, a telephone infrastructure is built to IT adoption or tech adoption. And it's not an infrastructure problem anymore. Maybe it's an organizational infrastructure problem, but it seems to be more of a human problem to me. So when we look at um, how companies adopt technology and when individuals adopt technology, when you and I adopt ChatGPT ourselves, it's helping us do something. It would provide some sort of value to us directly. But I think when we start to talk about it in an organization, we start to worry about a loss of our own competence. Is AI going to replace me? Is it going to be better than me? Which is a huge deal. I was in a room of physicians and healthcare providers a couple weeks ago, and I asked them, how many of you are worried that AI is going to replace you? And a good 10%, maybe more of the room raised their hands, and which shocked the heck out of me because there's such a
Yeah.
like that's kind of the last one that I would think that AI would replace. But there was fear there. And then I also think that people are afraid of the experimentation in front of others. What if people are playing with the technology and they mess up and they look incompetent? I think that's a huge issue for people's egos. I don't know. Is that something that you see in your organization?
Yes, yes. I actually think it's really interesting because there are certain people at my organization that are doing really, really well because they are early adopters of this, and they're
Mm,
they're really brought up by management. Like, look at this shining star. Look at this person who's adopting AI and how much better things are. But most of the people are kind of like, I tried it and it didn't work. And they're saying that behind hushed doors. They're not admitting that in the open. And even the people, the shining stars who are being put up there, are realizing that, yeah, there's this shiny new ball. It is helping in these very specific use cases, but I
mhm.
cannot generalize it with what is
Right.
happening. I mean, you and I have both been experimenting with AI development of courses, right?
Mhm.
And
Right.
while it has helped us in specific roles, it has not replaced a
Right.
developer. It has not replaced an author because it's not there yet.
Right. Oh, it just requires a massive amount of rework and editing and that kind of thing. So that's, I think your point. I tried it and it didn't work. Is exactly what we're seeing in organizations. So an AI tool, especially an LLM, just a general LLM, it's you just don't click something and it's done. And you have to use your judgment. You have to understand how to ask the right questions. You have to try, and you have to try and fail and try again, right? And how many people are willing to invest that kind of time?
I don't, but it's actually really interesting because I went to a keynote for the CEO of SHRM, right, the HR
Yeah.
company or industry group, and he basically said we actually do expect job losses as a result of AI, but we think they're almost all going to be replaced by quality management type of jobs
Mhm.
of AI.
I don't know if I would call it quality management, but I would call it critical thinking. Can
Yeah.
you analyze the output? Quality is kind of like, but critical thinking does this actually accomplish the end goal? And that critical thinking, by the way, it requires a lot of effort. So, like there's a reason that I batch my decisions and I make decisions early in the day because this cognitive effort is tiring and exhausting. And so at some point you run out of energy to make decisions and to critically analyze things. So the idea that we're going to just run things through an AI and it's going to be I can fix it that requires a lot of work.
Absolutely. It really does. And so you're right. It's not click once and you're done. It's
Yeah.
constant adjustments. So what do leaders need to do in order to actually get their employees to adopt AI?
Yeah. So it's mostly about all the things that we expect from leaders to be great leaders. So I would say when we talk about leadership and management, leadership is all about the influence of the humans that work with you, for you, around you, and so it is about all touching on all the intrinsic motivators of humans. And humans want to be they want to belong, they want to feel competent. We talked about that earlier. What if I don't feel competent? What if I feel like the tool can just easily replace me? They want to feel valued for their work, and they also want some autonomy. So, which is they don't want to be told you will use this tool. So, I think understanding those things and what drives people. The first thing that I would do, and I've done this for myself actually, I would, as a leader, we need to cancel meetings. We need to create space, and it needs to be intentional space, because when we cancel meetings, it just fills up with other work, right? So it needs to be intentional space for people to learn, and also to learn from each other. I think we need to um, talk about how we're using AI in our work. I just tried this and it worked great. We need to encourage people to experiment together. And the other thing I would say is we need to lead by example and use social proof. So when you're thinking about tapping into all of those competencies all at once, a lot of your team meetings should be about what I tried, what I experimented with, showing off the use cases that we're using. And the manager needs to do the same as well, because if we're not leading by example, our teams won't really feel like they're safe to experiment. So for me, the vast majority of this is the leaders at every single level of an organization running this exercise where they're incorporating it into their work, they're sharing how they're using it, and they're rewarding people, whether it be through recognition or other, that actually find a creative new way to use the technology.
No, I agree with you. I think the difference is you're positioning somebody. You're not expecting AI revolution. What you're
Right.
actually expecting is job evolution
Exactly.
incorporating AI, right? And
Yeah.
that's really probably for 90% of the corporations out there, AI is going to be an evolutionary step
Right.
in their
Agreed.
business. It's not going to be a revolutionary step in their business. It may be
Yeah.
a revolution for Nvidia and Microsoft and those individuals, but for the rest of us, it is how we are going to
Right.
evolve around this at a much slower pace than
Yes.
what the market's J curve is telling us is going to happen.
Right.
Because, let's be honest, the CFOs are spending real dollars right now, but they aren't
Right.
seeing the real returns. And your method is to produce real returns.
Yes. The one caveat I'm going to put there is, let's go back to the .com bubble. The one caveat I'm going
Okay.
to put there is that there is a technology now in the market that can allow industry disruption. So those that produce products and services should also carve out a lane with very narrow focus on. It's not we have to do AI on everything, but a very narrow focus. How can we use AI to evolve our service, product, whatever, or what could be coming for us with a disruption? So that would be the one
Yeah.
caveat, is that there's going to be an AI version of Uber, right? That disrupts another industry.
Waymo,
Who knows?
right? I mean, Waymo
Exactly.
allows you. I actually saw it in Atlanta. I was visiting Georgia State Tech, Georgia Tech, and there was a Waymo. I'm like, there's no driver in that car.
That's awesome.
No, no,
So
I agree. There's going to be some, right? There's going to be some disruptors. We're going to
yes,
find, the internet did disrupt the local bookstores, right? I mean, that
right,
Amazon came and really blew them up, and Barnes and Noble found a way to survive. Borders did not.
right,
And there's going to be other examples of that type of thing that's going to happen.
right.
We will see some disruption, but
Yes,
I don't
and
think it's going to be as wholesale as what the market is projecting.
I agree. And the companies that invest in both GPUs and leaders, I think are the ones that are going to win. They're the ones that
There
are
we
going
go.
to be the most productive and to survive any sort of market disruption that we might see from this. So Jamie, the question, is AI a bubble? Is it a revolution? Is it a mass hallucination? What is it?
Yes, I'm going to go with yes.
Yes, it's all the above. That's awesome. All right. So with that, we'll be back next week to solve another mystery that literally no one ever asked us to solve, but everyone needs to hear. Until next time, keep your spreadsheets handy and your coffee strong.